right, let's head out to the consumer electronics guru. He is the consumer electronics president of the association. His name is Gary Shapiro, and he joins us live from Washington, D.C. But he's a home slice, Gary. You're from here?
Building a home in Birmingham. My wife is a doctor in the area, and I have 2 kids. And I love Robin Schwartz. She's a friend.
Oh, very nice. Well, we love Robin as well, so we have very many things in common. And let's talk about love. You have a new book out. It's called Ninja Innovation: The 10 Killer Strategies of the World's Most Successful Businesses. Let's talk about what makes a business successful, because as a tech guy, a lot of businesses rise and fall, including Apple, and it seems like it rises and falls with Steve Jobs. What are some of the elements that make a successful tech company?
Absolutely. Well, you know, a successful tech company learns from its mistakes. Just like your viewers who just wrote in about the things they've tasted and they didn't like, you make a mistake, you learn from it, you move on. And that's what we do in this culture in America. We make a lot of mistakes, we take risks, and then we move forward. You know, in other cultures, if you fail at a business, that is a badge of dishonor. Here, it's a badge of experience, and that's a really good thing. Of course, you know, ninjas were the all-Japanese warriors that had, against major odds, they succeeded. And that's what we're talking about here. How do you become a ninja? You innovate. You learn from your mistakes.
Let's talk real quickly, harkening back to our last segment, something you tasted that you never want to taste again, Gary?
Oh, I was at a Chinese banquet once, and I was talking too much and not watching what I was eating, and my wife was kicking me under the table, but I was actually eating duck claws or feet, and that was pretty bad.
Well, you innovated out of that. The experience moved on. Let's talk real quickly about why some companies thrive when other companies fail. What are they doing differently that makes them rise to the top?
Well, the winners in American society are those that can reinvent themselves. Because, you know, as humans, we always try to preserve the status quo. We always think everything will stay the same, but it never does. You take some great companies. You mentioned Apple, but there's also like IBM. IBM's not the same company it was 20 or 40 years ago. They keep changing. Amazon, what a successful business they built up on the Internet. And then Jeff Bezos created a competitor in the Kindle, an electronic book. That was just sheer brilliant to create your own competition. Certainly Apple is a great example, but there are other smaller companies that have created innovative products. We just came from the international CES in Las Vegas, where several thousand companies were showing great, cool, innovative products.
2 questions before I let you go. What are some tips that you can give to companies or CEOs of companies that are listening right now? If you could give them a couple of tips to say this is one direction to go, what would those top tips be?
Well, the top tips is it's not only for a company, but it's for anyone who wants to succeed. Be a ninja. Think outside the box. If you see a brick wall, you don't go to your boss, or you don't go and say, I hit a wall. You go under it or around it. You come up with a clever way of defeating that wall. You know your strengths, you know your weaknesses. You be honest. You put together a great team, and you trust that team, and you also recognize that everyone on the team has weaknesses, and you don't try to fix those weaknesses. You work around them and build up strengths, and you know your opposition.
Before we let you go, I have to ask you this question, since you are the Consumer Electronics Association president. Now, we've been doing interviews with CES for years, and now this year they were asking us to call it CES and not Consumer Electronics Show. Why?
Great question. Because we've changed the name from International Consumer Electronics Show to International CES because we're ninjas too. We recognize that the consumer electronics does not include. Look, we had 8 of the 10 largest car companies there. We have healthcare companies. Consumer electronics is almost too defining. We want to create our own brand with CES, and thanks for noticing that. You're the first person who asked.
Gary, you are indeed a ninja. That was a great answer. Love to see you. When your house is done, make sure you come in here in person, my man. Thanks for the time.
I've been there, and I love being there. Thank you for having me.
All right, stay away from those duck claws, my friend.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot, Gary. Now, that interview, of course, was sponsored by the Consumer Electronics Association.